Hey. Kind of logged in early to test. I got a new laptop, so there's been some growing pains with transitioning.
We've all been there, so
yeah,
hopefully it keeps working out for you.
Hi, welcome Spencer and Mary Elizabeth.
Hello. Nice to be here.
Hello.
Hope you all are enjoying the cooler weather in Stockton.
Well, I've officially gotten on my my indoor winter coat. Yeah, it's cold.
That's the downside. The houses get really cold. Colder than the outside sometimes.
Yep. And I'm really cheap. I don't want to give PG&E any more money.
I'm with you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I do see that it is 5 o'clock. So we'll go ahead and get started, just because we do have a pretty packed agenda today. But as always, we'll start with housekeeping, and in case anyone has any questions as they trickle in, we're happy to provide some support. Can you all see my screen okay?
We can see it.
Perfect. So again, hi, everyone. Welcome to your 47th CSC meeting. Happy November and happy last CSC meeting of 2023. My name is Laura Martinez, and I am joined with my colleague Gabi Magana, and we are both from Hardering Company, and we are looking forward to co-facilitating this session for you today. We also have our colleague Amy joining the call, who will be supporting with any logistical pieces that may come up during today's meeting. First and foremost, we want to thank you all for your ongoing presence, your input, and your collaboration in the implementation of the AB617 process in the Stockton community. For today, our agenda topics will primarily focus on the Air District providing you all with quarterly air monitoring updates and an end of the year SERP implementation review. And we will then engage in a 2024 meeting planning activity where we'll collaborate and brainstorm priority topics you all want to bring forward in the next quarter. Before we fully get started with our meeting, we want to walk through some meeting logistics. I know this is familiar to many, if not all of you, but it's always helpful to have a refresher. So as you see on the screen, please go ahead and mute yourself and make sure your full name and organization are shown as your screen name. To change your screen name, we ask for you to go ahead and click on the 3 arrows that are on the right side of your picture/video. For CSC members, please use the naming convention CSC-first name last name, and for residents, R-first name last name. For all other participants, we kindly ask for you to include your first name, your last name, and your affiliation. And we have some examples here for AD and CARB and for general public. And just a friendly reminder, once again, that having the right screen name is important for CSC member attendance tracking. To link your phone audio to video, you'll see that there's a little arrow next to the microphone. And once you click on that, you'll have a load of options. You'll click switch to phone audio, and that will help connect your phone and your audio to one another, so you can show up as one person on our attendance tracking records. Again, for folks who may be trickling in, if you could please update your screen name to the naming convention on the screen. Again, CSC members and residents do CSC-first name last name, residents are first name last name, and for all other participants, your first name, last name, and affiliation. And if you do need support, Hardering Company and Air District is here to help you rename yourself. So just ping one of us and we can go ahead and do that for you as well. Again, it's important for attendance tracking purposes and for the stipends. Going through some virtual meeting etiquette, please stay on mute unless you are speaking or planning to speak. And if you are on the phone, you can use *6 to unmute yourself. Please raise your hand to ask a question during a presentation Q&A by using the *9 if you are participating by phone. And you can just raise your hand through one of like the many boxes that Zoom has on the options on your screen. Residents in the stipend program, you should stay on for at least 75% of the meeting to be eligible for a stipend. That's 90 minutes for a 2-hour meeting. So if you logged in exactly at 5, your 90 minutes are up until 6:30. And we kindly ask for you to state your name before sharing a comment to allow for smooth interpretation of our conversation and to have equitable access to the information and comments shared. This ensures, again, that we have smooth communication throughout this meeting. Moving along to our group agreements, in order to have a productive discussion and respectful dialogue, some group agreements are to help achieve the meeting goals by focusing on solutions, opportunities, and having a productive dialogue, letting everyone participate by stepping up and then stepping back, being civil and respectful. It's okay to disagree, but please be respectful, empathetic, and civil towards one another. We ask for you to stay on point and on time. Please keep comments brief and to the point. This will allow for everyone to have enough time to participate. We also ask for you to attack the problem, not the person. You can respectfully challenge ideas or outcomes, but never attack the person, and honor every person's humanity and dignity. And we also hope to seek common ground by building consensus and finding shared values. And this will help achieve better results for us all. As always, if there are any other group agreements that you would like to add, please let us know during these meetings or in the agenda setting meeting. We want to make sure that these agreements are cultivating a safe space where you all feel comfortable engaging in conversation. So moving along, we unfortunately don't have a community co-host for this month's meeting, but if you are interested in being a part of the facilitation team for these meetings, we invite you to consider volunteering, and we encourage you to consider volunteering to be a community co-host for future months. And because it is, we'll go through agenda and then we'll go back to my previous thought. So for our agenda today, we're partaking in welcome and introductions. We'll also be reviewing the action items tracker, moving along to quarterly air monitoring updates and end of the year SERP implementation review. We will then engage in the 2024 meeting planning and do our usual standing updates, wrap up the next steps, and public comment. So going back to my previous thought, because it is the last meeting of 2023, we'd like to make some space for intentional reflections for today's meeting. So we'd like to start off by getting your reflections on what worked well this year that we should continue doing for 2024. It is on here, and I believe Gabby or Amy posted it on the chat. So if you could please type in the chat what works well this year that we should continue to do. And we'll give you folks a few minutes to gather your ideas and put those ideas into words. And we'll go ahead and read a couple of them as you're typing out. And thank you, Gabby, for posting it on the chat. I see a comment from Debbie, monthly meetings with input and time of last meeting about topic for next meeting. Thank you, Debbie, for sharing what's working well. Mary Elizabeth, the breakout room sessions were good. Maybe consider a short one for each meeting. And we'll go ahead and read one final comment from Nate. It was great to schedule an in-person event earlier in the spring so that members could meet to have regular discussions and provide interactive information on surveys and post-it boards. Thank you three so far for sharing. If you feel inclined to do so, we encourage you to continue sharing on here. I know it's maybe a pretty loaded question. You have a lot of reflection. So if you want to continue posting as the meeting continues, again, we encourage you to do so. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing it with everybody, you can either message myself, Gabby, or Amy individually. And we will go ahead and also have a concluding reflection question just to gain a little bit more of your insights. And during that time, also feel free to think about it, let it sit. And if you want to message Gabby, Amy, and I directly, feel free to do so. But with that, I will stop sharing my screen and we can pass it off to Stephanie from the Air District for any welcoming remarks.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. This is Stephanie. Thank you so much, Laura, for that introduction. And thank you all for sharing your thoughts in the chat. We so appreciate kind of in this time of our last meeting of the year to kind of think back. And we hope today's presentation and planning exercise will give us a good opportunity to kind of think back on what we've done this past year, but also plan for kind of the upcoming year of how we can continue to move forward our CERT measures. I just wanted to thank everyone kind of for sharing their evening with us, as always, to improve air quality in our Stockton community. And I did just want to share for transparency that we do have a handful of district staff here with us today. So I just wanted to very quickly introduce the folks that we do have. We have, of course, Rocio, who is our community liaison. We have Cassandra and then also Heather from our communications and outreach team. And then we do have a handful of district staff that are supporting our meeting for the air monitoring update that we have. And so we have Cole, and then we also have Brad, Robert, and Chai as well. And then finally, I think rounding out our group, we have, of course, at every meeting, a grants staff. And so we have Crystal tonight with us. All here to support hopefully a really productive and great conversation. And so looking forward to tonight. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass back to Laura.
Thank you, Stephanie, for your welcoming remarks and providing us a little bit of context as to why we're seeing a little bit more of your members this evening. It's always appreciated. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and move forward with the agenda, and we'll move along to reviewing the action items tracker. And as you all are familiar with, this is a standing action item that we bring forward every month. And it is a tool that we use to develop transparency and accountability between community members and the Air District. The Air District continuously updates this tracker to ensure your voices are heard and progress towards implementing your suggestions is being made. And as a friendly reminder, at the end of the meeting, we do share action items that we captured throughout the meeting, and we encourage any members to add any action items that should be tracked that maybe we didn't capture. And as Rocio provides updates, please feel free to ask for any clarification. So with that said, Rocio, passing it to you.
Thank you, Laura. Good evening, everyone. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen to get started with the action items. And I also went ahead and dropped the link in the chat in case you guys would like to click on it and follow along. And then, can everyone see my screen? Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So starting off with the pending action items from last month's meeting, there was a question from a resident about the cost per metric tons of abated criteria pollutant EV versus the lower cost clean engine vehicle. And so the Air District is still following up on this item, and we'll get a response back to the CSC member who asked this question. And moving on to the next action item, the Air District to pursue a Valley Can informational outreach event for passenger vehicle replacement. And so the Air District did take note of all the great suggestions from the last CSC meeting, as well as in the outreach subcommittee meeting. And we're working closely with Valley Can to arrange a local informational outreach event for this program. And let's go back and move on to the completed section. So the Air District will follow up with the resident who had questions about the truck replacement program. Sorry, this one we actually did follow up already. And we just helped address any questions about this. And for the next action item, the Air District to move forward with increasing funding amount for the passenger vehicle replacement. And so in the last CSC meeting in October, the CSC did reach consensus about increasing the funding amount up to $20,000 for the passenger vehicle replacement program. And moving on to the next item. So in the last meeting, Christine Trans from SJCOG gave a great presentation about the unmet transit needs in the Stockton community and shared a survey for the CSC to give feedback on. And so the Air District did go ahead and share that survey with the CSC via email. And moving on to the ongoing action item. So the Air District to bring an update about the truck measure to the CSC in the next meeting. So we will give an update about this in today's meeting, and as well as continue working with CARB and the CSC on this measure. Moving on to the comment noted action item. So the Air District to follow up about an AB617 tune-in, tune-up event. And so the air district will make sure to share with the CSC any upcoming tune-in, tune-up events. And I also did go ahead and include a link right here if you want to click on that, and it'll show you all the upcoming events and information about the tune-in, tune-up program. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Don't see any hands raised, so I can pass it back to Laura.
I
Thank
do
you.
see some questions on the chat or comments. So Mary Elizabeth is interested in getting the information for 46.1. So noting that down. And then Debbie commented, I thought at last meeting, several members asked to discuss the electric semi-truck issues at this meeting. And I do see Stephanie, you unmuted, so I'll pass it along to you and or Rocio.
Maybe I'll just really quickly respond. Mary, thanks for your comment. We will, once we have that response, put it in the action items and then review it with folks, and then also follow up specifically with the member that asked, just so they know that that's been answered. And then Debbie, to your question about trucks, I'll give an update about trucks later today, in addition to a lot of different CERT measures that we are making progress on in our presentation later.
Is there any more questions? All right, pass it back to you, Laura. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Rocio, for reviewing the action items tracker with us, and to you and Stephanie for answering any questions/comments that came up. At this time, we'll be shifting gears to discuss Stockton's quarterly air monitoring updates. And we want to give a little bit of context behind this agenda item. So this agenda item came from a request during an agenda setting meeting by a community member, and the Air District is honoring that request by providing these quarterly updates and involving community members during the presentation process to gather feedback on how to make these presentations a little bit more digestible for us all. And we want to thank Hector and Tanisha for providing us with feedback to support this quarterly update presentation. For today's meeting, Cole Hutton from the Air District will be sharing updates on air monitoring data collection and analysis, as well as the status of community air monitoring network implementation. We encourage you to ask questions by using the chat or by raising your hand during the presentation. And before I pass it off to Cole, Stephanie, is there anything you'd like to add during this time?
Thanks, Lauda. No, I just want to echo kind of what you shared, just thanking Hector and Tanisha from Catholic Charities, Tanisha was the one that recommended it, which I think it's a great idea to do air monitoring updates to the CSC. And we do community air monitoring updates across all of our CSCs, and have just been finding time and time again that when community members are involved in the process of the presentation and kind of shaping the presentation, letting us know what needs to be simplified a little bit more, what we can help answer. We always find those presentations go well. So I just wanted to thank both of them for their participation, and just offer, if you are interested in working with the district on future community air monitoring updates, please feel free to reach out. We definitely want to work with folks to make sure that these presentations are what you all want to hear, and in the most kind of community friendly way. With that, I will pass it back to Lada, or maybe to Cole.
Yeah, Cole, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. Can everyone see the presentation?
We can, Cole.
Great. So this is the Stockton Community Air Monitoring Update for November. And first, we're going to talk about our implementation status here. So as you can see, in June 26, 2023, this year, we added the edible schoolyard monitor. So that would be the update here on the implementation status. There are still two other pending sites you can see on the table here at Van Buskirk Park and Taft Community Center. These updates are also available in our quarterly reports. And then next, some of our air monitoring platforms. This is one of our permanent platforms, one of our permanent monitors. And then we have our trailer. And then our van, our beautiful wrapped van. So that's just some of the ways that we monitor air quality across the Stockton community. You may have seen these before in previous presentations. So some key takeaways from the July to September 2023 period are across all community sites, most days, PM 2.5 concentrations measured in the good or moderate AQI. Only 2 days were in the unhealthy for sensitive groups AQI category. And we'll see that the reason for that was the influence of smoke from wildfires, specifically wildfires located in Northern California and Southern Oregon, which I'll show later in the presentation. And then VOC, our volatile organic compounds, concentrations remained below health thresholds, which is a good thing. I see there's something in the chat. Oh, that's a previous one. Okay, and as always, our interactive map is available on our Valley Air AB617 website. This shows real-time PM 2.5 data, and you can see our edible schoolyard site was added to that map. So you can check that out whenever you like. And then getting into some of the PM 2.5 concentrations that we experienced over the July to September period. You can see the majority of the quarter was under the federal 24-hour PM 2.5 standard of 35 micrograms. And you can see some spikes over that in the August and September period due to wildfire impacts. I'll dive in a little deeper as to the culprits of those impacts. And then previously in the quarter in July, we had some concentrations higher than the federal annual PM 2.5 standard due to some stable conditions, which caused poor dispersion conditions and really kept PM 2.5 concentrations at the surface, which impacted our monitors and caused concentrations to go up. Next is another look at our PM 2.5 daily average. This is in the form of a daily heat map, and you can see, like I highlighted previously in July, some moderate daily AQI, and then later in the quarter in August and September, some more moderate AQI, and then some USG as well in September due to those wildfire impacts. Other than that, the majority of the quarter was in the good AQI category. And then next, a little closer look at the data with the hourly air quality AQI. And you can see throughout the quarter, the majority of the quarter is in the good AQI. And you can see, again, the highlighted wildfire impacts where we can see some elevated concentrations at USG and then a few hours of unhealthy as well due to those wildfires. Next, looking at some quarterly average comparisons of the July to September period based on this year and last year. You can see the quarterly average concentrations is comparable to the regulatory monitor at University Park. The quarterly average of all locations were under the standard of 12 micrograms. That's the annual standard. And then you can see slightly that 2023 was higher than 2022, and that was due to the wildfire impacts that we experienced in August and September, just slightly higher in some cases. Looking at the PM 2.5 monthly average comparison, I'll give you a chance to look through this just comparatively from month to month. And like I previously stated, there was some wildfire impacts in August and September. So they're slightly higher than the July month, but still some stable conditions in the summer months led to some higher concentrations as well on a monthly average basis, but still under that federal 12 microgram standard. Some efforts that we do to understand the causes of these high PM 2.5 readings, like we saw in August and September, is surveillance and enforcement. Our inspectors go out and our air monitoring operators are looking for activity around the area. When we see spikes, inspectors are sent out to kind of check things out and see, what's going on. And our air monitoring operators, look at the health of the monitor and provide their own observations of anything local and relay that back to our air quality analysis team.
I'm sorry, Cole, can you hold for a minute? I would like to let my interpreter know that she needs to interpret her hand up above her name, please. Okay, it's covered up. So can you put your hand up above your interpreter, linguistics interpreter? Okay, so bring the chair up a little bit so that I can't see down the bottom. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Cole. Go ahead.
No problem at all. And then our air pollution monitoring network. So our lab analysis of PM 2.5 air samples, that would be our VOC, our volatile organic compounds, as well as our PM 2.5 speciation. So we can look at that a little closer, which we will here in the next few slides. And we use that to kind of narrow down what the culprit might be of those high readings. And in this case, it was wildfire emissions. Quick look at our volatile organic compound speciation summary at our Hagen Museum sites. 20 samples were taken from April to June. And you can see for our two speciations, they were all under the REL, or the reference exposure level. That's the health metric established by the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment. And you can see the short-term impact and the long-term impact were both under that threshold throughout April and June of 2023, excuse me. And then we moved our VOC speciation over to the edible schoolyard site from June 29th. And there were 12 samples taken from June 29th to August 7th. I'm going to stop there. I see a hand raised.
Yeah, Cole, this is Margot.
Mhm.
I don't see the reference numbers on this chart. Is there something that where what it's being compared to?
Yeah, on the short-term impact, you see the OEHHA acute REL. That's the health metric for the 1 hour PPB.
Oh, so
And-
that column is the actual.
Yes, so the column on the left is the actual health metric, and then on the max measured 24-hour, the column on the right with the green check mark, that's what was observed at the site.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. And I'll slide back to the Hagen one so we can get another look at it. Okay, and then another quick look at the edible schoolyard as well. For this site, all of the metrics were under the REL.
This is Gabby Cole. I'm just going to pause you for a second because I see Douglas has their hand raised and I want to make sure it's nothing to do with interpretation. So Doug, did you have a question or was it about interpretation?
Question. Thank you. Yes, I'm a little, since I came in late, but I would like to know, is this particular diagram, what is it talking about the fire from where we're getting like different kind of fire and different communities that came over to Stockton? And well, I would like to know what was the higher concentration of pollution that came from, because I believe we got a lot of lawsuit that came, I believe in LA, that I got a letter from an attorney stating that a few people are suing the one that started the fire. I've got the name of it, the very popular one, and we got it it was yellow, and I remember Stockton. The air was not really that. It was like we could see a lot of dust coming upon our airway, in our car, in our going out, and it was. I mean, literally everything on the floor was just really from a tree amber. You know what I mean? So I would like to know how polluted in Stockton concentration that would compare to till now. That we have a little bit of fire from last year, from this year. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. We did experience some smoke impacts from some Northern California and Southern Oregon fires. Previously, I showed the 24-hour daily PM 2.5 average. So we did have a few days over the 35 microgram unhealthy for sensitive group threshold in August and September. So currently I have up our investigation from that period, and you can see on the left is our fire and smoke map from August 30th at 10:10 a.m. And this is available for everyone on the Air Now website. And that's a great way to see air quality in your area, especially if there are active wildfires, anywhere near us. So you can see Stockton had elevated PM 2.5 on August 30th. And if you look at the visible satellite on the upper right, due to some northerly wind flow over the fires in Southern Oregon and Northern California, it brought smoke into the valley and impacted the Stockton community. And then here's a list of the fires in question up in those areas that were producing smoke at the time and being transported throughout the valley. So we just have a list here of various fires that were going on. And so this is very similar situation to what we saw in September. I'll go to the next one. So this is the September 20th impacts. And similar to the previous slide, you can see the Stockton community at this time on September 20th in the USG category at 11 a.m. And they do have a smoke overlay, which is a model projection of the previous day's smoke. So you can see it coming south into the Stockton community, as well on the visible satellite going down the coast, and then some onshore flow, which is wind blowing towards the east direction, brought smoke off the coast into our valley, which impacted the Stockton community. And here's another list of those fires that were currently producing smoke on that day.
Well, but Carl, what would be the ratification people who our organization can do as far as remedy the damage that they caused by the PG&E short out, whatever, that because everybody was affected long term because we were breathing it. It was, I suffer from AFib now, so I don't know because I was breathing too hard or my lung is not really what it used to be, and I'm a little concerned about that. Is there any legal ramification that I could go and pursue that the evidence that's already been pointed out that okay, we had a pollution because of neglection. What can the air quality do for us and to alleviate, to minimize that effect? Thank you.
I'm wondering if Robert, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, hi, this is Robert Gillis with the Air District. Cole and I work together. I think on the direct question, as I interpret it there's definitely outside of our scope on ramifications for pursuing legal action against somebody who caused a fire. That's not really our area of expertise.
Maybe, Robert, if I could add, this is Stephanie. I do think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cole, that actually a lot of the fires that Stockton was experiencing were due to natural causes as well. And something that I think is equally important to talk about that Cole will get into in a little bit is when there is a wildfire, what you, your neighbors, your friends, family can do to protect themselves as well. So that's definitely our expertise and something that we want to share with you all kind of in the coming slides.
Yes, I agree with I agree with you, Stephanie. Okay, I agree with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Douglas.
Thank you for your question. So yeah, next, like Stephanie said, we're going to talk about some of the things we can do to make sure the community knows when to expect some worse air quality, like the situation we experienced in August and September. So schools participate in the Healthy Air Living School program. We do release news releases are issued before known and expected high pollution days, and that includes wildfires and high wind events. High wind events can lead to some higher PM as well. So we do issue news releases ahead of time to outreach to the community and let them know that there's probably going to be some worse air quality. District also posts updates to social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor. And then we also have our active wildfire information website. This is on our district, valleyair.org. We'll have a banner that you can click on to go to all the active fires that may be impacting air quality in the San Joaquin Valley. And you can actually click on those and get some more information on each of the fires. And then we also have some air quality tools, some mobile tools that you can use to check air quality within your community. And I don't know if OC has any additional thoughts on any of our outreach.
Hi, this is Cassandra. No, Cole, I think you pretty much
Great.
covered it all.
Cool. Sounds good. There is a question in the chat about how many schools in Stockton Boundary participate in the referenced program, the Healthy Air Living. I don't know if you can shed some light on that.
Hi, yes, this is Cassandra. I can definitely do that. So the schools that are in the boundary do participate and they actively get all the communication. And so, yes, they do take part.
Great. And that's all I have. If there's any comments or questions. I see some in the chat there.
We see a comment from Debbie saying, great presentation, Cole.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments folks have around the?
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah. Hector?
So I just wanted to check with everybody here, the community members, to see whether, I know you mentioned alerts. I know we were talking about it when we first met. Just see if anybody remembers getting any type of alerts, air quality alerts on their phone.
This is Margot. It's hard for me to say. I think I do, but I get it in my on the RAN report as well as the weather, and it comes right up. So I'll watch for it in the future, but somehow it rings a bell, but I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to check, but I do like the adjustments to the presentation, especially with the pollution sources coming in from the wildfires. Appreciate it. Thank you.
This is Stephanie. If I could just highlight, I think Hector had a really great question and point that a new addition kind of from the original draft was including the impacts from the various wildfires. I think like Nicole was referencing, I think sometimes what we think about immediately are that wildfires that are kind of like closest to us might be the ones that are causing the impact. But I think as Cole shared, that's not always the case. I think really in the Stockton area in those two big peaks, we did see a lot of impacts coming from Northern California. And so I really appreciated kind of that context and providing that information for folks. And I also wanted to note really quickly that, Cass, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head or maybe want to follow up with Mary at a later time, but just the number of schools that participate in our Healthy Air Living program.
Don't know that off the top of my head, but I can definitely provide that answer at a later date. Yep,
Cool,
we'll
thank
have all
you.
that information.
Thanks.
This is Gabby. Just to make sure I captured that, it's to look at the number of alerts that are sent. Is that the correct next steps for Cassandra?
There was a question from Mary about the schools that participate, particularly like kind of the number of it. So the schools that participate in our Healthy Air Living program.
Thank you for clarifying.
Got a question. I'm sorry, this is Everett. And the question is, do we know or if when like we're in this war situation right now, and we have been in it before, and when they light oil wells and fires and stuff like that, is there a comparison from the air quality far as the smog or whatever, or do we see anything other than that coming in around, because it goes around the globe? So that's just a question that's been on my mind. Thank you. And maybe I'll see if anybody can answer.
Hi, this is Robert Gillis again with the Air District. I think for the most part, the air monitors that are located within the Stockton community and throughout the air basin here, you definitely pick up any available just air pollution and contaminants that are in the air. And then it is a little bit more difficult to make the distinction from those that travel from very far distances like that. But there are some previous research and efforts that have happened in California to try to understand some of the pollution transport that comes from the Pacific Ocean or from other countries over the Pacific Ocean and into California. So I would say that I don't know how much of those emissions from the specific area that you're referencing, might make it this far, but Asian pollution transport is certainly a topic that has been researched and is still a topic of interest for pollution in California.
Thank you, Maria. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Cole, for your presentation, and to everyone who asked questions and engaged throughout this agenda topic. Is there anything else you all would like to bring forth before we transition? All right, I think it's safe to say we can go ahead and transition, but if you do have any questions, again, we encourage you to type it in the chat or message us directly if you don't feel comfortable everyone reading your question. So we'll go ahead and transition to the end of the year SERP implementation review. And for this next agenda item, we'll be reviewing this year's SERP implementation progress, along with short and long-term SERP implementation deadlines. The Air District is committed to providing a deep dive of SERP and SERP updates every 6 months, and the Air District is excited to discuss a handful of measures and share their progress with you all tonight. And for today, we'll talk through residential, community and school, business, and outreach and enforcement incentive measures. The goal of this agenda item is to gather recommendations from you all on next steps for certain measures, start brainstorming priority items for future meetings around the SERP, and to help move these measures forward. We ask for you to just feel free to ask any questions at any point during this presentation. And again, want to kindly note that if you do have any clarifying questions about the measure, such as historical context, we may not have time to answer your questions tonight, but we will note them down and the Air District will address them at a later time in meeting. And with that, I will hand it off to Stephanie for a presentation.
Thank you so much, Laura. And this is Stephanie again. Very quickly, as just a follow-up to a question, while we have the whole group here, I just wanted to report that to Mary's question about the number of schools enrolled in our Healthy Air Living School program, all 61 schools from Stockton Unified are enrolled in our program and getting our air quality information. Oh, and I do actually see a hand from Douglas. Go ahead.
Sorry, Stephanie. I've been trying to find the hand, but anyway, I was wondering, so far, I just want to know, going back from this year, January till now, can you tell me at the committee of what did we accomplish so far as, and what did we did not meet our goal as far as this year to make it go next year? But I would like to know, what did we do that we accomplished so far this year? So we get some encouragement, you know what I mean? But the same way, I just don't like, okay, what do we do? Okay, I know I come to the meeting every day, and I'm like, and I mean this meeting every once a month, and I'm like, okay, well, so far we're still talking about voting, and sometimes the vote don't show up, sometimes the vote do show up, and it wasn't there, and I don't know, but I would like to see what do we accomplish this year at this moment. Thank you.
This is Stephanie. Douglas, you're reading my mind because this presentation I'm about to give is really a high level update on kind of the progress that we've made this past year. And so that sets us up really well. And I hope these answer your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so just to kind of set up this item, I know that typically meeting to meeting, like Douglas has mentioned, we might do updates on a few measures or really deep dive into one or two measures that we have to do a lot of work on. But I know that in our agenda setting meetings and just in conversations with CSC members, there is a desire to continue to kind of look big picture at how we're doing kind of at the overall implementation of our AB617 program, and kind of it being our last meeting of the year and just kind of, reflecting on this past year. I think this is definitely a perfect time to do so. And so the purpose of this presentation is, of course, to provide updates to you all on really a high level how we're doing in our AB617 implementation, to really set up kind of as we're thinking about entering next year, what we want to prioritize, what we should focus on. And what will help us do that is, and what I hope this presentation is helpful for, is to set up some topics for you all to think about prioritizing in the upcoming year. And Harder & Company in this next agenda item will lead us in a strategic planning exercise to discuss exactly that. And so there's going to be a couple of slides that maybe give you all information about, just from our perspective, various factors like timing, progress we need to make on the measure, district recommendations for ones that we might want to look to prioritize in the upcoming year. But in our strategic planning exercise, we definitely want to hear from you all about measures that you want to bring forth and continue to work on. And as I'm presenting, I'm actually going to stop at a couple of different points through the presentation to ask for questions, because there's a couple of slides that I think belong together, and then we'll stop and ask if there are any questions. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to break it up. We'll talk mostly about SERP implementation, our community emissions reduction program. We'll talk mostly about that, but at the end, we'll provide a quick update or just progress on, of course, the other piece of this is just our community air monitoring network as well. And so first, with this SERP implementation update, I'm going to pass through CO for the first few slides.
Thank you, Steph. So we wanted to start this presentation just by giving an overview of the status of the SERP measures and the fundings. So in your SERP, you have a little over $31 million that is allocated to the community. And so these measures include, it's 31 SERP measures. 19 of those SERP measures are for the incentives. And then we have 5 for enforcement and permits. And then we have 5 for outreach and 2 for land use and partnership. And so overall, these measures will reduce 66 tons of PM 2.5 and 698 tons of NOx. And so all SERP commitments are underway. And Steph, if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you. So right here, we have, again, an overview of the total funding of a little over 31 million. And as you can see in the funds obligated at the very left-hand side, the dark green color, we have about 5 million funds that have been spent in the community, and about 23 million that are currently in progress. And so these are measures that have been approved by CARB, and we're currently working with the CSC to get the funds into the community. And so moving on to the last section, at the far right-hand side, We have about 3,600,000 that we are currently working with the CSC to develop project plans to submit to CARV and move these measures forward. And this just kind of gives like an overview highlight of the total measures that we have and the funding amount. And I will go ahead and pass it back to Steph, who will go into detail about the CERT measures.
Thank you so much, Rocio. Sorry, very quickly, a little technical thing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just one moment. All right, let me try this again. I'm going to share my screen once more. And Rocio presented kind of this high level update. We have all of these measures in the CERP that are in these different types of buckets. Some of them are incentives related, some of them are like outreach related, and we have this 31 million. And so in the next couple of slides, I'm going to break down in different categories our incentive measures, the progress that we're making on them, and then next steps that we have for you all to kind of think about what we want to do moving forward, you know, at the end of this year and moving into next year as well. So the first kind of bucket of measures that I'll talk about are our residential incentive measures. So examples of these like our air purifier program, our program to give out free air purifiers to community members. We also have from our last meeting 2 measures that are related to passenger vehicles. So for example, our passenger vehicle repair or tune-in tune-up program or passenger vehicle replacement. And I'll go into this in a little more detail, but what you're seeing here is just a kind of a graphic to show overall across these measures, the funds that we've spent and the funds that we have remaining. And so this number that you see at the end are the funds that we have remaining in the measure. So as you can see, we've made some good progress on measures such as our EV charging infrastructure measure, our car share program, our air purifier program we are working on. And like we mentioned in the last meeting, 2 measures that we haven't made that much progress on because we are working with you all to kind of kick off implementation are our tune-in, tune-up and passenger vehicle replacement programs. And so on these next slides, I'm going to get into a little bit more detail. So again, tune-in, tune-up and passenger vehicle replacement, we have been working with Valley CAN and also the CSC to start kicking off this program. As I think most folks recall, in our last meeting, you all supported and kind of reached consensus to increase the amount for passenger vehicle replacement to $20,000, up to $20,000 for the purchase of a new battery electric vehicle. And so we are working with Valley CAN to kind of fine tune the last details to be able to administer these programs. And we do hope to open them in the coming weeks. And we'll of course notify the CSC when they do become open, because we definitely want to utilize your networks and for you all to, of course, if you're eligible, apply for the programs yourself. And so for our tune-in, tune-up or vehicle repair program, we are coordinating with Valley CAN to host a tune-in, tune-up event in the Boundary. And then for our passenger vehicle replacement measure, we talked a lot about outreach events that Valley CAN does. They hold these events at local restaurants to sit with folks and answer questions, and if they're ready to actually apply for the program. And so once the AB617 version of this program is open, we definitely want to coordinate with the CSC and Valley CAN to host one of these outreach events based on your recommendations. A couple other measures that I'll mention, we do have a measure to install EV chargers throughout the community. We've spent about $155,000 of that. And currently through this measure, we have 27 chargers in the community. And the various locations include at Cal State Stanislaus, Charter Way off of I-5, and then also in the downtown area. And finally, we have a car share program. We have shared several updates about this. We are just inches away from finalizing this contract with the Housing Authority with San Joaquin County. And so we actually expect implementation to be able to begin hopefully at the end of this year. For all of these measures, we'll continue to bring updates to you all. And in this next slide, I'm actually going to talk about a handful of measures that we definitely want to continue to work with you all on, kind of especially based on the timing of the measures. The first of those being our residential air filtration program, or else otherwise the program that gives out free air purifiers to residents. Currently, there are 424 units in the community, which is amazing. That's 424 homes that have a clean air room. But we do still have a lot of funds left in this measure. there are over 4,500 units still available. And so we'll continue to do outreach on this program, and Cass is going to provide a quick update later, but we are doing distribution at in-person events. And so that's something that we want to continue to do to be able to reach out to community members and get these purifiers into homes. Another measure that we have, residential lawn and garden, as some folks might remember, the CSC also voted to support and increase, reallocate funds from another measure that we actually weren't seeing movement in to this measure. And so currently we have 29 units out in the community. And we want to continue, of course, to work with you all on outreach as well. And something that we did mention that we are still planning is to have an in-person mower exchange event in the first quarter of next year. And so kind of on our end, there are a few things that we need to do, including releasing what's called a request for quotation to find a vendor for this program. But we definitely still plan to hold an event in which it'll be almost a one-stop shop for someone to come. They can bring their old mower, and we can take that one, and then they can pick up a new mower, potentially leave with some outreach materials and some kind of food, and just be on their way to be able to use a new electric mower. And so these are 3 measures just kind of based on timing that we want to prioritize in the coming months. Some of those reasons being that, residential lawn and garden, I think when folks start to think about when they want to apply for the program, spring is a really popular time. So we just want to start getting things lined up, doing our outreach to be able to hopefully get folks enticed. And when it's that time to think about, mowing grass again, folks are ready to participate in the program. Similarly, we also want to continue talking about our replacement of wood burning devices measure. Currently, we have 9 units that are replaced, but we still have plenty of funds available. And as we are kind of getting into the winter time, I know when it's hot, when it's summertime, a lot of folks aren't necessarily thinking about upgrading and kind of their fireplace necessarily. But we definitely want to continue outreach. I know that our outreach team has already started kind of a big media campaign around it, but we do want to continue to do outreach, especially as winter is approaching. I'll pause right here and see if anyone has any questions about these more kind of residential-based incentive measures.
Hey, Steph, it's Laura. I did get a private message asking if the slide deck is available for everyone in this meeting. And I'm wondering if you can speak, is it on the website?
It's on the website, and then Rocio can also share it in the chat as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. If you're looking for it on our website, you can go to our main Stockton.
It that's also to be on the video, right? Also on YouTube, right? Or was on Facebook?
Yes, you can view these meetings on YouTube. We stream them live, and then they get posted afterwards as well. So you can, if you missed this meeting or if you know someone who missed it, you can watch it afterwards on our YouTube page.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
This is Everett. I have a couple of questions, and one is pertaining to the exchange of the heater, the wood burning stoves. I like and some of the people in the area too. I have a older house. My home was built in 1956, the year I was born. Praise the Lord. And so which. Trying to have someone come out to take a look at that. How do you go about that to get? I mean, I know you need the voucher and all that kind of stuff, but are we still trying to pay for that up front, or how is that going down now? Because I'm that's just people are asking me and I don't know, so I'm just trying to get some information. Then I have one more question or one more statement.
Okay,
I can go ahead and say that and let me finish that. I would really like to offer for one of those exchange, my labor union, Local 73 on Cherokee, and it's a big place. We do our training there, and you can put the dump trucks or whatever for the lawnmowers or whatever, and there's a way in and a way out, and they would even might help supply some food too. So that's just one of the things I've been wanting to do. So, okay, back at you. All right.
Thanks, Everett. Regarding your recommendation, I know Cass is here and I took note of it. I know Cass is too. Cass is the one who overall plans pretty much all these events and spearheads a lot of the efforts. And so I know that she's she's taking notes, and I am too. I have a couple of responses to your question about replacement of wood burning devices, but I know Cass and Crystal also have lots of information about the program. I will just say something to keep in mind for this program. It is, you do have to apply to receive a voucher, and we have a list of retailers that we work with for the program that know the ins and outs of the program, that are certified to kind of do this work with us. They have to enter into a contract with the district. And so we have a list of retailers. The one thing I'll mention, and this is something that, some folks, if you've worked with us in the outreach subcommittee, know this, unfortunately, there are no hearth retailers based in the Stockton boundary. And I think even in the city of Stockton. And so that's something that I know that is a little bit of a challenge, but there are retailers in the San Joaquin County area that I know have expressed willingness to come out to people in Stockton that are interested in the program. We're always open to adding retailers. We do research to see whether or not there are, ones that might pop up. If you all know of someone who's in that business and wants to become a retailer, we're totally open to working with them. But as of now, currently there are retailers kind of in the outside Stockton area, San Joaquin County area, that could be open to coming to folks in the Stockton boundary. And then I will say a couple more things. There is a version of the program, if you do qualify, there's kind of a low income version of the program that you can apply for, in which you do not have to pay out of pocket for it. Essentially, the retailer pays it, and then we will provide the rebate amount to the retailer. And so there are options in the program that hopefully reduce some of the barriers to apply for the program.
That's what I'm going to need, because we just had the whole the electrical work done at this house. So definitely that's going to be needed. Thank you so much, Steph.
Thanks, Everett. Really great questions. And if you'd like, I can have someone from our grants team and that works in that program reach out to you with more information.
Great.
Perfect. Well said, Stephanie. Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. I'm just noting that someone did put in the chat that they received an air filter. And so, yeah, if you know people that are interested, and our team, we have bilingual staff. We're happy to walk people through the application over the phone. You can do it on an online portal that's super simple. And all you need really is to fill out some demographic information and provide proof of residence. So it's a quick application, and we're happy to help you. We definitely want to get these filters out in the community. All right, I'm going to move us along. The next bucket of incentive measures that I'm going to talk about are our community and school measures. So some examples of measures in this bucket are, for example, our urban greening and vegetative barrier program that I know are really high priority to the CSC. We also have, for example, our school bus replacement program that we are making good progress on. And so in this next slide, I will do the same thing. I'm going to provide a couple of updates and then also a few measures that I think, just based on their progress and just timeliness and wanting to work on them, that the district is potentially, we want to work with you all in the upcoming months. And so in this first set of slides, we have our vegetative barriers and urban greening measures. As a reminder, we have $1 million allocated to both of those measures. As some folks might remember, but I know not everyone participated in this process, we have a tree subcommittee that worked really hard to review and submit a project plan for both of the measures. And following that, another process that we did have to do is we put out what's called a request for proposal. And so we also worked with the subcommittee to, taking CSC feedback. We put out that request for proposal. And we did receive one submittal for both measures. And then in reviewing those measures, there were ineligible costs in both of the submittals that we got. And so with that said, because there were ineligible costs, we weren't able to move forward with contracting at that time. But what we can do in this process is continue to work with the applicant, who is Little Manila Rising, and they're looking to resubmit their proposals, and we're expecting to get those by this coming Friday, end of day. As a next step, once these are received, the district will, of course, review to make sure that they're complete, their costs that we can fund through these CAP funds that we do have, our community air protection funds, and we'll continue to provide updates to the CSC as we are able to review them. I wanted to move us forward also to, I know, a high priority measure of the CSC, which is school bus replacement. We have $4 million allocated to this measure. And so currently we have 10 buses that were purchased by Stockton Unified School District. And they are letting us know that they're scheduled for delivery in early 2024, so potentially January or February of next year. And kind of with those remaining funds, we are continuing to work with Stockton Unified to identify potentially any other school buses that they might want to replace. And then I'm going to move us. Actually, I do see a question in the chat that I want to quickly answer while we're on this page and talking about it. So will the tree subcommittee be involved in approving the updated proposals? Yes, Marion. So I think, as you might remember, the last time that we had reviewed the proposals, what we did is once we reviewed the proposals, we did kind of put together a presentation with Little Manila and then with their contractor that they're working with to provide a really high level kind of summary of what the proposals included to discuss that. And so we'll plan to do the same exact process once we're able to say to kind of review it and understand that it's complete. And we're able to fund it, we'll provide a summary to folks so that we can discuss whether or not we're wanting to move forward with those proposals. Okay, I'm going to move us along to a handful of other measures, one of which is our bike path infrastructure measure. As an update to folks, just I believe 2 weeks ago, the district did have a meeting with the City of Stockton Public Works Department to discuss the availability of these funds and to let them know kind of the project eligibility and discuss some potential projects. And so at that meeting, we did, they committed to kind of doing a follow-up meeting with us. And so the next step for this measure is that we do plan to have a follow-up meeting with City of Stockton to see what potential projects that they think we could leverage funds and coordinate on within the Stockton AB617 boundary. And then another measure we have is our heavy-duty truck reroute study. As folks might remember, this year, the CSC received updates on the progress of the Port of Stockton truck reroute study. And we're looking to finalize their results through the end of summer. And so really our next step is to coordinate with the Port of Stockton to potentially leverage, to see if there are any opportunities or see what opportunities there are to leverage our CERT funds with the findings that they had from their truck reroute study. And then finally,
this is Laura. Hi. We do see a comment in the chat to please include a list of ineligible costs. Is that something that's possible?
Yes, I won't have that at the moment, but we can follow up on that.
Okay. We'll track that as an agenda or action item.
Thank you for your question, Mary. And then EV mechanic training. I want to thank so much. We had 2 co-leads that were working on this measure really diligently, and thank Taylor and Ed for their work on this. They did they followed a lot of different threads to move forward this measure that weren't quite panning out. And the last kind of update we had is they were investigating opportunities to partner with San Joaquin County that has an apprenticeship program with the high schools. And we were not able to find the necessary project partners, and they didn't necessarily feel comfortable committing to working or saying that they could make this program happen in Stockton Unified when they didn't have the right contacts. And so we weren't able to move forward with that. And so really the next steps here is we definitely want to continue to work with folks. I know there are other folks on this CSC that are really passionate about this measure. So definitely seeking your recommendations on how we can continue to support these efforts in Stockton. And of course, on the district side, we'll continue to research opportunities to support this measure and how to use these $150,000 in the community to support existing EV mechanic training efforts. Go ahead, Margo.
On that one, I was wondering if the other CSCs have utilized this as a CERP and have experience with it, and what are they doing?
Thanks for your question, Margo. And for a little bit of context, this is a measure that we have not just in the Stockton community, but other CSCs as well. And I'll just as kind of a quick summary, I think we've faced similar challenges, but maybe even a little bit more so in Stockton, kind of in trying to work with the school. we've been kind of following similar efforts and actually looking to the work that was being done because there were so many passionate people that were working on EV mechanic training in Stockton. So to answer your question, we haven't moved this measure forward in any of our communities, but we're exploring a lot of different avenues in other communities. Like, for example, in Fresno, I know there's a lot of work being done at the high school and community college level. And so those are all things that we're investigating, but we haven't quite landed on a project yet in any of the other communities.
Stephanie, I want to know. Okay, there's a lot of charter school, like Unbound School, and there's another one called. There's two other charter schools that I don't remember that are in the downtown area. Are willing to step collab with you and everything. I don't understand why. Okay, I know county do a lot of Stockton SUSD as well and oversee what Stockton does, but we don't interfere. But we have our own school charter school that we give them to go work in a small area confined within the bound of the 671 Stern Committee right there too. So either way, I mean, it's one door closed, and the other one is still here, but it's still there. Have the opportunity as well too, So either way, it works better. It's like always something like it's a preference. It is if it's not this, it's like it's not this the highway. It's like either that or that or what is this? But we should give people other opportunity to see whether or not they can able to go through that too as well. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thanks, Douglas. This is Stephanie. I think I heard the recommendation to potentially work with charter schools that are outside of Stockton Unified, which I think we can definitely look into. I believe, and Cass, correct me if I'm wrong, there's 2 charter schools that reside within our Stockton AB617 boundaries. So we can definitely investigate if they have EV training programs for their students at these charter schools. That's a great idea. And the final thing I'll say about this slide is that just in terms of kind of our thinking again about our planning exercise that we're doing, these are a couple of measures that I think could be good suggestions to prioritize in the coming months, just given that I think they do have, they are the types of projects that aren't our typical, some of these aren't our typical projects. And so I do think they're ones that we could look to focus on just due to also the necessary time to implement some of these. Infrastructure projects just do tend to take a little bit longer than like exchanging out a lawnmower. And so for these measures, we do recommend potentially for the CSC to consider prioritizing them in the upcoming months. And I'm going to move on to our last bucket of incentive measures before we move on to a couple other of our CERT commitments. But the last bucket is kind of our more business related measures. So a couple of these include, for example, heavy duty EV charging infrastructure, switchers, and then also our truck replacement program as well. And so in this slide, you can see we do have some work to do for some of our measures, but we've actually completed one of our measures, and that's our heavy duty EV charging infrastructure measure. So as some updates, we have spent the $1 million allocated in heavy duty EV charging infrastructure, and it is for 12 chargers for a refuse hauler that is on Charter Way. It's really great. Overall, I think this type of project, definitely this is more of a local type of vehicle that goes around within the community. So we're really excited to support this type of project. And then also, I think there were a couple of questions about our heavy duty truck replacement program. And so updates that we want to share with you all is the district is conducting outreach. I think maybe the last time we talked about it, we were talking about some changes to potentially submitting a project plan, which is still on our mind. But I do think something that we do want to do kind of in parallel and potentially get more information to inform that project plan process is to continue conducting outreach to businesses. So I know she's not on this call, but I think a lot of folks know Janine, who is our truck expert. We're actually working with Janine to pool a list of truck owners, businesses, single owner operators that are working in the boundary, and that we can actually reach out to and talk to them really intimately about the program, see their challenges with transitioning to an EV, so that we're able to come back to the CSC with information about what they're telling us about their ability to participate in the program. And then also their kind of all the challenges they're facing. And I think this will be really crucial. We have done outreach generally with a lot of different businesses, but I think really our goal is to reach out to most of the businesses if we can, to be able to continue reaching out to them to understand their challenges with this measure. And I think that outreach will be really helpful to inform us of potentially any other things we might need to include if we were to submit a new project plan. And so that's kind of the step that we're at with this. We definitely want to continue to provide you updates on this outreach campaign that our team is working on. So my team in the community strategies and resources team, and also our grants and incentives team are planning. We anticipate probably a good amount of outreach, so that we're going to continue to do this to provide you the most up-to-date, current, from the people that are kind of using the trucks directly, what kind of challenges they're facing and ways that we can make sure this measure is the most useful to them. And with that, I see a question from Debbie.
What on the, sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought. I was listening to you and totally lost my train of thought. And if I get it back, I'll let you know. Sorry.
Eagerly awaiting your question, Debbie. Let us know if you think of it. I see Margot's hand.
Yeah, I have a question, Stephanie. Go back to the prior slide. You had idling plugins. That was mainly at the port, wasn't it? Or what's the status of that? Is that a happening thing?
Yes, I mean, all of our measures across the board, we are still making progress on. I do believe the port was one of the potential areas in which could look to utilize a lot of our business related measures, like our charging infrastructure, truck idling plugins, truck replacement. And so they are definitely a contender for applying for the funds. Something that I'll have to triple check that we will have to do is, I believe for this measure, submit a project plan as well to CARB for approval. But I think just to your point of like kind of movement on this measure, this is definitely a measure we can continue to do outreach on as we're making calls to folks that own trucks as well. I think these definitely go hand in hand.
Well, it just surprises me that there's, okay, we'll wait for an update. I would have expected that to happen pretty quickly, but I'll wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. I do see another question. This is Laura. I do see another question from Debbie. Are we letting independent local contractors apply for the trucks?
Yes, this is Stephanie. Yes, they could apply for the program. I'll say maybe just from the kind of work that we've done to understand this measure, I do think they do face, and I know Janine talked about this a lot, face definitely, I think, a few more challenges than say a bigger business, because a lot of times that's like maybe they only have 1 or 2 trucks, and so it could impact their operations. But definitely we want to reach out to them, because we heard loud and clear from the CSC that we want to make sure to be reaching out to kind of local businesses and potentially smaller businesses that might have fewer resources than say like big businesses in the Stockton boundary. Thank you for the question, and thanks for yours, Margot. And then finally, I'll close off with talking about our diesel switcher locomotive measure. So we do have $6.8 million allocated in that measure. And so there is a local rail company that serves the Stockton and Lodi community called Central California Traction Company. And they're looking to test out this new technology to see if it works for their operations before finalizing to purchase potentially 4 switchers. As a reminder, switchers, those are definitely kind of not, they're more short haul. They're not kind of the long haul rails that might, pass through the boundary. These are the ones that really are operating kind of locally. And so they are looking to test out the technology. I think really similar to the conversation that we had related to trucks and just kind of the need to test out the technology, the maybe uncertainty around whether or not it'll work for the operations. The operations of potentially these rail yards. It's not, across the board, I think that's happening with a lot of electric technology. And so for this measure, they are still working on testing to see if it works for their business.
I think it will.
We sure hope so. That I'm going to continue to move us forward. Actually, I'll just pause. I just want to make sure that there aren't any additional questions on this slide. I'm not seeing any. I know that we're hearing a lot of information today, so I want to thank you all for sticking with us and kind of hearing these updates. I do think it's nice to see overall. I know that there's still a lot of funds to be spent in the community, but I think for pretty much all the measures, there's really great progress and things that we're getting really close on. And so we definitely appreciate kind of the continued work of the CSC and want to continue moving all of these measures forward. Actually seeing, I think 2 people thought of additional questions. So I saw Margot's hand up first and then Douglas.
Okay. Yeah. About the, and maybe I missed it. Maybe I was distracted for a second, but the HD EV charging infrastructure for haulers on Charterway, is that a single company that's looking, are they transitioning to electric and therefore needing the infrastructure?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I think there are definitely companies out there that are making that leap and looking to electrify a lot of their fleets, this being one of them.
And I think the government is, our Sacramento is trying to do some infrastructures in the EV, in the areas, different areas. They've been talking about it, so it looks like we might be coming out with something pretty soon.
One of the complaints, this is Margot, and I'll talk about at the end of something going on in the city of Stockton, but one of the complaints that people have indicated that they're balking at moving towards heavy duty electric trucks is the lack of infrastructure, the lack of charging facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, so I'm assuming that this company is putting this in for their company.
Yes. And
not for public use. Yeah. Are there any, do you know of any entities looking at creating a facility for public usage, for truckers in general usage?
I personally don't, but I can follow up with our team that would know a lot more about this. I'll just generally maybe share a little bit, I think, about how we anticipate the rollout with infrastructure to work. As it stands right now, because there aren't a lot of kind of those big, heavy, like electric, heavy duty types of equipment out there, we're anticipating that kind of in the rollout of this technology, that it would be businesses that are kind of having, springing for that infrastructure at their facilities. But as we're starting to get more electric trucks out there, that's when we anticipate there's more public infrastructure for it right now. But right now, I think because there are so few, I'm not sure that I can follow up with the team, but I'm not sure given the amount and the kind of like level of electric trucks that are out there right now, that it would necessarily make sense to kind of have, a public one that wasn't tied to a facility or a business that needed to use it.
Because I think I read about one in the East Bay that's just been created, a huge electric charging facility. And I'm guessing the Port of Long Beach and LA have them, and I can't remember if this was affiliated with the port in Oakland or what, but somehow, hopefully we can see if that can happen here. Thank you.
Thanks, Margot, for bringing that to our attention. Crystal, I don't know if you know a little bit more, but if not, I can follow up with Janine and our trucks team to ask about public EV charging infrastructure. I'm almost positive, I think someone asked in another meeting, and I don't think it's quite there yet, but we can definitely ask.
Yeah, I think we'll want to follow up. Sorry, this is Crystal Yunker. I think we would want to follow up with that team, just so I don't misspeak on some information that I'm not fully aware of.
Thank you, Crystal. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, but I'm
Hold on, my turn. Can you, Christine, oh my God, I lost my train of thought too. Can you go back to the next slide, please? Stephanie, please. Okay, first of all, the Port of Stockton have already been discussing about the diesel switcher and locomotive already? Because I remember they have a train track around there nearby, and they have a switcher. Are they already discussing about getting that repaired as well?
This is Stephanie. I'll have to follow up with our team, but I feel quite certain that actually this they operate in the port, Central California traction. So I do believe it is the related to the port for this company.
Okay. And so have they received their money already, or they're in the process of building that switch locomotive?
Yeah, Douglas. So right now they're testing out the technology before they're committing to actually buying it. So they haven't purchased it yet. They're seeing whether or not the kind of the new technology works for their operations.
Okay, now the next one, what about the HD truck replacement? Is that also that the Port of Stock also want to get that too?
This is Stephanie. I do know that we worked closely with Jeff, who works with his tenants to let them use the program. I don't know that we've quite had any takers at this point yet, but definitely Port of Stockton is someone that, and Jeff Wingfield over at the port, we definitely want to continue to work with him and then all of the tenants to see if they're interested in this program. As of now, as the program stands, we haven't had any interest from any of the tenants at the port yet.
Does Jeff know why is Jeff not here? He is supposed to. Would you think he would know about that thing? Why it's not just at the tenant? It's involved. Are there tenants that have been there longer tenants that are the one that use the housing for the port, or what? Are there worker? That's what I mean.
This is Stephanie. I know that Jeff can't be here tonight because he's traveling, unfortunately. He did let us know that. But I will share overall, I think the challenges that the port faces are similar to a lot of other folks that are thinking about kind of the transition to electric trucks. Overall, I think a lot of businesses are struggling to understand how electric trucks, they're changing like in terms of like them needing to charge and kind of the battery life and how many miles we can drive. Those are all things that I think a lot of truck owners, including the port tenant owners, are facing right now.
Okay, and great. And also next, now to off the topic. I know that we're not going to be here next meeting on December, but in January, when we're coming back, are we going to be able to meet and greet at the board again? Are we going to have new members, or are we going to have the same member? Are we going to have display on truck with the difference between bigger ton than half a ton? And I remember talking about that with you, Steph, to have some kind of like somewhere around the civic center. We were able to.
This is Gabby. Doug, I'm just gonna jump in a little bit. I hear you having questions about maybe the next in-person meeting that we may have. And yeah, I appreciate the question. It's a little bit off topic, so I'm gonna ask if maybe we can follow up with you with more details around some of that planning, just to make sure that we have enough time for the rest of our agenda items today. But I really do appreciate your question.
Okay, I just want to I want to let the board know that I'm involving all of you guys. That's all, not just me. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm just saying that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We can make sure that we're sharing more details as we think about future in-person meetings.
Thank you so much, Gabby and Douglas.
Thank you.
Thanks. This will actually be our final slide of the meeting, and I want to pass to Cass to just quickly go over some of the outreach efforts we've been doing in the community.
Thank you, Steph. So this is Cassandra. So I'm super excited to share all the things and events that have taken place within the Stockton AB617 boundary. We've had the opportunity to visit Stockton Unified Schools. We had 5 of them that we got to connect with, and we went out there personally, got to engage with parents, pass out information packets about AB617 grants, air qualities, tools, and then the CAR program, letting them know how they can get their free air purifier. So super excited about that, and we will continue to keep, trying to stay in contact and get into more schools within Stockton Unified, as well as there are 2. We just recently made a connection with KIP charter schools. And so they are willing to have us come out and present to their parents. So we're currently in the process of getting that dialed in. So super excited. And then throughout the past year, we have participated in 18 events, which again enabled us to engage with residents within the boundary and provide relevant details about AB617, air quality, and the clean air room funding available to them. And then our biggest thing that we're super proud of is just recently we held our first in-person clean air room distribution event. And that was held at the Fall Harvest Festival for Van Buskirk community. We were able to distribute 25 clean air room purifiers in person, and then we registered another 25 more. So those folks should be receiving their new devices pretty soon. And then we just locked in another event that will be occurring on the 20th, and we're partnering up with Conway Homes, the resident council. And so we will be doing another in-person air purifier distribution event, and we're looking to pass out 150 units. So a lot has been taking place. We're super excited about the partnerships that we have made, and that a lot of that is done with your guys' help. So we appreciate all your input, all your suggestions, all your advice. And yeah, we've accomplished a lot this year. So thank you so much. And we're super excited to see what next year brings. And so with that, I'll pass it back to you, Steph.
Thank you so much, Cass. And we will definitely, like Cass said, we have an upcoming event that I think will definitely be of interest to folks. So we'll share out that information to the CSC to share with friends, to potentially, if you wanted to stop by and participate yourself, you're more than welcome to. Thank you, Cass, for that update. I want to leave plenty of time for this, a really great planning exercise we're going to do. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass over to, I believe, Gabby.
Thank you, Stephanie. This is Gabby, and good evening, everyone. We wanted to spend a little bit of time knowing that it is the end of this calendar year to engage in a bit of a planning exercise. And this might look familiar to you all. We previously engaged in this exercise around March. It helped us to plan April through June, which was really helpful. And as you know, our agenda setting meetings have had limited participation, likely due to how busy all of you are. So we really wanted to maximize the opportunity to gather your input, especially for the first 3 months of next year, and then hopefully continue to have these opportunities throughout the year so that we make sure that we're getting feedback from as many of you as possible as we think about prioritizing topics for the remainder of the year. So to guide our discussion, I will be taking notes on the document that you see on our screen, so you don't have to click on anything fancy to participate. We ask that you use the chat to provide input, or that you unmute yourself at different points. And please be respectful, step up, step back based on how much you see other people engaging and things like that. And so those are the ways that we'll be gathering input today to hear your ideas about what you'd like to plan. As you know, we plan pretty closely with the co-leads to prepare and design the meeting and facilitation. So we also have the opportunity to, maybe if you're interested, for you to let us know in this meeting if you'd like to co-host for a future month. And that way you'd know, what topics might be assigned to that month, and we can get coordinating with you on the earlier side. So with that, I'm just going to share the list of topics that you're seeing over here, and to ease kind of the reading, I will zoom in. And so these priority topics might look familiar to you. They were the ones that the Air District had highlighted earlier in their presentation to you all. They're noting kind of time-sensitive opportunities and or just the need to begin conversations around some of these topics due to maybe some of the delays that have occurred. So what you see here is bike path infrastructure, heavy-duty truck reroute study, EV mechanic training, residential air filtration, residential lawn and garden, replacement of wood burning devices, and heavy-duty truck replacement. So those are some of the topics that the Air District kind of noted as a potential opportunity of things to discuss in the next 3 months. But we also want to open it up to see if there's anything you all are tracking that you'd like to hear about in the next 3 months as well. So for example, if you're in a subcommittee and you're working on something that you think might be a priority for the next month, or if there's events coming up or other opportunities, we'd love to kind of brainstorm together any topics that you think we should add to this list as priority topics. So I'm going to maybe pause a little bit, let you read these, and if you have any ideas, please let us know in the chat or raise your hand so that we can unmute you to share out loud. I'm not seeing anything in the chat yet, but if you have other topics that come to mind, please let us know. We want to be as ambitious as we can be with this list, and then we'll compromise later when we think about the upcoming months.
Gabby, this is Stephanie. If I could, I saw Mary's hand just pop up, so I don't want to take up too much time. If I could very quickly say or recommend, I do think wood burning devices earlier in the year versus like potentially like March or April. Maybe I'll just put a little plug for that. That in terms of like time sensitivity, I do think winter is a really great time to talk about this program.
Thank you. And Mary Elizabeth, please go ahead and share.
Thanks. So I was going to add that about the wood burning devices, and that that information should go out because already crossing town, there's all kinds of smoke, and I know that some is coming from homes, and then we have a big problem now, because it's gotten cold with the unregulated heating associated with the homeless population. And, the things that are coming out of that smoke is quite different than coming out of wood burning in a resident, albeit with lots of creosote built up, in the flues, which is associated with a lot of the smoking there as it heats up. So I think that that's a big issue because there's, particularly in the early morning hours, the air quality is very poor. And so, on this bike path infrastructure, that's all going to decide on the city. And what they're probably going to do is try to get that money to offset some funds that are needed for the South Airport Way separated bike path that the city has been sitting on and approved for over 2 years by San Joaquin COG. And then I also, I'm telling you guys, this, I know there's all kinds of problems, and we're talking about the trucks, but, that commercial lawn and garden, you cannot imagine, that's really, they are very much polluting. And, if you're walking by there, you are definitely getting a big exposure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Elizabeth. So I heard you mention a couple things. And so to kind of reflect your input, it sounds like wood burning devices is an important conversation for January. So I added that there. And then I also added to this list of priority topics, maybe some sort of discussion around the air pollution that is associated with individuals who experience homelessness and have to use some sort of burning as a heat source. So maybe there's like an opportunity to work with any of the homeless assistance agencies or other groups that might be supporting that population to learn more about if there's anything that the CSC can do to support and or mitigate that. So I heard that, and then I heard you talk a little bit about bike path infrastructure as well and the importance of prioritizing that. And I think there might have been somebody else in the chat who noted that. So thank you for your input. And I see, Dr. Eugene, that you might want to contribute to this as well. And we cannot hear you at the moment, so please make sure that you select unmute. I'm doing what I can on my end to ask you to unmute, but I don't think it's working. So we still can't hear you. Maybe if the Air District wouldn't mind sharing the call-in information, or if you'd like to also put your comment in the chat, we still can't hear you. Oh, there we go. We can hear you now.
No, that was me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Yeah, go for it, Everett.
I was just saying that I mentioned, like someone was mentioning about the commercial landscapers and what have you. And again, I want to reiterate that the city has a lot of them, and the county, that do work the parks and recreations, the parks and a lot of the facilities that belong to the city. And then a lot of them are union members out of our labor union. So we can contact them and talk to them through those different facilities. When the city goes to, when you go to talk to the city, that's something that you can bring up on your agenda. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I noted that as well. And I'm going to read some of the input I'm seeing in the chat so far. So I'm seeing, and let's see. There was a question earlier from Margot about utilizing small grants to work on outreach door to door. It seems that all of the programs need more outreach, and Cassandra offered some more details around that. Debbie is suggesting that we prioritize residential lawn and garden for March. So I'm going to jot that down and we can kind of confirm. Thank you to my team for jotting that down. Hector was asking if we've had any discussions about businesses in AB617 area that grill or smoke meats outside, also kind of thinking about some of those other pollutants. And Stephanie shared that while it's not one of our CERC measures, we do want to talk about this at our next regulatory and enforcement subcommittee early next year.
Yes, I'd like to say this. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I'm concerned about the motorcycles and also these bicycles with motor pedals on them. They are loud, and they are also distributing pollution. And I noticed that you had about the bicycle path, but what are we going to do about the motorcycles?
Thank you, Dr. Eugene. I will actually pass that question off to the Air District to see if they have any insights they want to share around that, or if that's something they want to table to follow up with more information about that.
Thanks, Gabby. I think as a lot of folks on this call know, we work closely and in partnership with our state agency, the California Air Resources Board, that has authority over mobile sources. I'm wondering, I don't know off the top of my head, I'm seeing maybe some comments about things like homemade motorized bikes. And Dr. Farrell, your suggestion, I can touch base with maybe our team over at CARB to see if there's any information we can provide on this.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Dr. Eugene.
And Gabby, sorry, I just wanted to quickly add, I heard the suggestion to talk about our commercial lawn and garden program too. I'm wondering how folks feel about maybe doing a combined residential and commercial item in March, if that sits well, unless someone wants to see it, the commercial one a little earlier in the year.
well, it sounds good because I think that you can, you're going to be able to pull the different people from different areas, the commercial people, and but then like some of them, they like someone said earlier, you have private work, companies that work around town too. And I have one question before we go, and the question is, has anyone in this group that worked with that for the trucks and the infrastructure talked to Dentoni's Welding Shop? It's a shop right behind my house, and I've been wanting to talk to them, but I didn't want to step on no toes, so I wanted to find out first if anyone has talked to them yet. They have a lot of trucks and a lot of lot of stuff. They just got a lot of stuff.
Thank you, thank you, Everett. And what was the place you just mentioned?
Dentoni's Welding Shop. It's on Airport and between Airport and Welding, Airport and Pilgrim, the side of BNSF tracks that runs around side tracks.
Thank you. Yeah, if others have any insights on that, please share more in the chat. And Douglas, I see your hand is up.
Hello, I would like to know the question. When I'm looking at what you're doing right now, you're making January a priority. I noted that I asked you in the beginning what was almost completed during the time was ready to get one particular project done. I remember that was our goal. So I'm asking you, what make do we get everything done by making a priority for next month for this year? Like I asked you, what was it Aaron gardening? No, that was home and garden with that in-home air that we already completed. That it's been given to the community now. That's good. Now we're focusing on other stuff. And I remember with the bicycle path infrastructure was what's gonna be completed by the city of Stockton, but somehow it disappeared. And then I don't know, that wasn't was brought out that they were taking over to implement the plan, but now I don't see that happening. So I don't know what's happening with that.
Thank you, Douglas.
And also, okay, hold on. Last time people would just Gabby cut me off because that was just the question that I was going to go to there. The goal for next month, as far as the trucking facility, to educate us what's the difference and why it's taking so long for them to look like I use that as an example. If you will go to the car lot and I'm going to get gas car, I'm going to get an Acura, and I'm going to purchase a car that is gas, and then I'm going to purchase a car that is electric. I want to know what's the difference, what the feature, what is all that, and why the electric car is so expensive when it's no demand, but when the car that our gas is still high, but it ain't high in demand, and it still costs more, equal to electric car. So you know what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to make it making sense of what it is we're trying to approve people to advocate for that reason. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. I feel like there were a couple things there that you mentioned. One was around the bike path infrastructure and following up on that, and I got your chat about that too. So I noted that down for February. I also kind of heard you talk about like, where are we going from here? What's actually where's the progress being made, and where do we have the opportunities for those next steps? And that's exactly what this exercise is about. So everything you see listed here is something that the Air District really noted as there's an opportunity for some intentional planning to be done to move some of the work forward. So that's something that we're noting here as well. And I apologize, I forgot what your third question was, but I'm going to pass it off to Stephanie to share any additional context that she'd like to add.
May I say something else, Dr. Farrell?
Yeah, go for it.
The water heaters, are we looking at these electric containers that heat the water and you don't have to have a water heater today? I'm not sure what is the proper name, but it's electric water heaters that some of the homes are having. And this is saving a lot of gas as well as other fumes in the garage.
Thank you, Dr. Eugene. I'm noting that here on the list. And then, yeah, Stephanie, if you wanted to add any more context, I remember that last question was about the heavy duty trucks and some of those next steps too.
This is Stephanie. Maybe very quickly, I'll just note for Dr. Farrell. So typically our programs that our district runs and the ones that are included in our SERP are focused on reducing air quality emissions. And so that we don't necessarily have an electric water heater program, but we can follow up with some of potentially the other agencies that might have a little bit more about like energy assistance programs and things like that. And I just want to maybe highlight something that Douglas said that I know that a lot of other CSC members support. I do know that a lot of pretty much all the folks on this committee are really good advocates in the community about how our programs run. I've heard it time and time again that a lot of our resident members apply for the program and they tell their neighbors about how the process went, whether or not it worked out for them. And so I do know that committee members are just like the greatest advocate and do want to participate and understand how our programs work. So I heard from Douglas of wanting to understand a little bit more about how our passenger vehicle replacement program works. Like, I know we talked about a lot about just overall what the program is. And then also we talked about increasing the incentive amount, but I wonder if CSC members would be interested in potentially doing a presentation sometime next quarter about more like eligibility. Like if you were to think about applying for the program, what would you have to do? What would you have to provide? And then we can also potentially provide some, it's going to depend on what vehicle you're getting, and it's also going to depend on what dealership you're buying it from, but we can also provide some of that context of like, on average, this is, you know, what an electric vehicle costs. On average, this is like what a gas powered like vehicle cost. Wondering if that could be interesting to folks more on the side of like, if you were to apply to the program, what would you have to do to you know, be eligible, participate in our passenger vehicle replacement program?
Would that be like a trial base or and if you did qualify that you could go ahead and follow through with it? Because that sounds good to me. It's something that to me that we need to do is that we need to do better training the CSC residents, the residents, so that they can have a better understanding, again, as Doug is saying, but they can have a better understanding of not just one of the situations, but all. And like I said, some of this stuff is new to us, and we're hearing these different things. We don't know. We're not educated in that, all the realms of stuff like that. So we're learning as we go, and it sounds good to me. All right.
Thank you, Everett. Yeah, so it sounds like one of the action items we'll note is that the Air District can maybe facilitate some informational sessions about some of the incentive programs so that the CSC is more aware of like the qualifications, the benefits, and all of that. Again, to support advocacy, but maybe also your own participation in those.
And Gabby, this is Stephanie. Maybe I'm even thinking like an action item would be great, but I'm wondering if folks would be interested in putting it in one of these months for an upcoming meeting also.
Oh yeah, thank you for that clarification. I will look to the chat to see if that is of interest and we can jot it down for one of these upcoming months, January or February.
I say aye.
Okay. Unless there's strong opposition, I will, and is this specifically, are we saying this will be specifically for EV replacement?
Yeah, our passenger vehicle replacement program.
Oh yeah. I know we're running a little bit short on time, but I did want to get a couple other of these items maybe on some of these upcoming months. So I did hear a lot of questions, even in today's meeting, about the heavy duty truck piece. And so wondering if that's something that we can do one of the heavy duty pieces in January and the other one in February to prioritize follow-up on those items as well. Does that sound of interest to the CSC? Okay, I got a DM with agreement. Okay, so I will put maybe the truck reroute study for January, given that there's a more interactive informational session for you all. And then the other one will be truck replacement. And we can switch these up depending on presenter availability and things like that. Let's see what else is on here. I think those actually were the main items that we had on here. The commercial piece, we already noted it. The electric water heaters will be a follow-up piece. For illegal, I guess, burning, I wonder if that could be an action item for the Air District to maybe follow up with more information on what resources are available to support the unhoused community, maybe reduce pollution, but also ensure that they have warmth during the winter months as well. So we have a couple items throughout. If anybody is interested in being a co-host, please let us know in the chat. We'd love to add you to this list. So if any of these topics are things that you're super passionate about or things that you have expertise on or anything like that, we'd love to have you support. And so with that, I'm going to kind of quickly move us along and wrap us up. This has been a really engaging meeting, and I want to thank all of you for all of your questions throughout what has been shared here today. As you know, because we did spend quite a bit of time with the planning and just sharing all of the wonderful updates on the amazing progress you all have made over the past year, we didn't have a chance for standing updates today, and so the Air District will note it as an action item. We'll follow up with an email to offer the standing updates. Thank you to ESPE for volunteering for the heavy duty trucks and EV. Amazing, we'll note that. And then so the Air District will follow up with the standing updates, and we will go ahead and wrap up today's agenda by just sharing the action items from today and more information on some of the next steps, next meetings when we'll see each other again. So we want to wrap up this conversation with another reflection question. If you have the capacity and willingness to share with us, what is something that you really want to focus on this next year, including anything that could benefit from improvement? So I'm noting that in the chat, and I will go ahead and share my screen to share some of those next steps with you all. So while that is happening, would love to get any reflections that you all wanted to share. Really to conclude this meeting with thinking about those opportunities for next year and the work that we want to do together. So as you're sharing those responses here, I'm just going to quickly go through the action items. There's a couple of things where the Air District's going to follow up with more information. So that includes looking into the number of schools that participate in the Healthy Air program. The grants team will also reach out to Everett with more information about wood burning replacement and lawn and garden. The Air District will also follow up with the CSC to provide a list of ineligible costs around community and school incentive measures. And they will share if there are any entities looking at a public facility for truckers or charging. The Air District will also follow up to identify opportunities for in-person meetings in the next year. And we'll follow up with more information about resources available for the in-house community to reduce air pollution in the winter months. And then finally, the Air District will send an email to the Stockton community members with the November standing updates. So those are our action items. As always, please let us know if we missed anything, if there was anything else you wanted to add here. And then as for our next steps, because we did engage in this planning exercise, we won't be hosting an agenda setting meeting. So if you have anything else that you'd like to offer input around, please reach out to us or the Air District. And then of course, if you're interested in being a community co-host, we'll set up and coordinate to collaborate with you all. And so our next meeting will actually be next year, January the 3rd. So very early on, we're going to start the new year with some really cool work for the CSC. So we'll see you next year, January 3rd at 5 p.m. If you have subcommittees, you'll see each other in those. And then, as always, if you have any questions or anything else and you'd like to connect with us in these coming months, we're more than happy to do so. And Margot, if you wanted to share anything.
Yeah, I was waiting for the public comments. To the people who live in Stockton, quite a few people have been working on warehousing issues in our area, Tracy, Manteca, Lathrop, and Stockton in particular. Stockton, as the basis of a negotiated settlement, the Mariposa project in East Stockton, which happens to be outside the AB617 boundaries, sorry about that, was looking at an ordinance. Staff worked really hard. We met, the community met, the committee met, the industry met, and they came up with some options. And last Thursday, the Planning Commission unanimously voted to choose the industry's pathway, which is just really a little shocking because it did not include a move towards more solar, did not include a move towards more electric vehicles. And I would just like to, it goes before the city council on December 5th. And please, let me know if you want to know more about it. If you want to join us at the city council meeting on December 5th, because they have to be hearing from constituents. This was a real opportunity for the city to move forward. And it was a little shocking to see the pathway they took. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing this, Margot, and the opportunity for CSC members to get involved. I'm seeing some appreciation for you providing this update from Nate in the chat. I also just wanted to note there was a couple comments on YouTube, mostly from a user named Pat Barrett, just noting that they don't know about the kind of the smoke from smoking meats and things, but they noted we have a lot of barbecue in front of stores with a lot of smoke. So just noting that that is an issue.
Okay, I just wanted to just thank everyone for the participation and the opportunity to work in the program. And I wanted to let you all know that we as the residents, we just don't do this on this time, but we go around to some of these places and we go around to and pass flyers out too, and to our neighbors and everywhere around. So when you're doing your Christmas bonus, don't forget about us because we love you too. All right. I'm good.
Thank you, Everett, for sharing. And thank you for all the work you do in the community. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. As always, it was so great to spend this time with you and to have this opportunity to reflect and really plan for next year. So we look forward to it, to seeing you in the new year and wishing everybody a great rest of the year. And we hope to talk to you all soon. Have a great night, everyone.
You all happy holidays.